Liz Cheney, always in desperate pursuits for relevance, was scheduled to do an interview with ABC News yesterday in order to discuss January 6th, because what the hell else would this utterly useless daddy's girl be discussing, right? For some damn reason, I feel it's my responsibility to document the shit show that has become her mere existence over the last several years. I mean, come on. Someone has to report even the nastiest of traffic accidents, right? Anyways, imagine being from the great state of Wyoming, having voted to elect this idiot to actually govern, only to watch her plot against her own voters with Nancy Pelosi and spin conspiracy theories about the insurrection that wasn't her whole damn term. Do you think maybe there's some buyer's remorse going on in the cowboy state? I mean, it's one thing if you're some low-information, non-English-speaking Dominican voter from the Bronx. You don't really give a shit that AOC is partying maskless in Miami, babbling on about Republicans wanting to screw her on Twitter or something. You're just trying to keep the lights and heat on in that hellhole and survive another ride home from work on the subway. Now, it's a totally different ballgame if you're from the proud state of Wyoming. You're pissed, like livid pissed, that this rich daddy's girl turned blue-haired leftist keeps spouting off about January 6th and Orange Man bad, lying through her teeth the entire time. But that's where we are, and Cheney did not disappoint the Trump derangement syndrome sufferers once the interview aired. In what may be her dumbest bombshell to date, overtaking her release of the text messages of several Fox News hosts, Cheney let it be known that Trump watched the breach of the Capitol building on television. And you may want to sit down for this, but apparently someone testified that Ivanka Trump went into the room and asked him to stop the violence twice. This changes everything. Truly, this is Gitmo-worthy stuff. We'll watch a clip right after this quick commercial break to pay some bills. Oh, and if you're eating anything, you might want to set that down and prepare yourself. This gets pretty bad. It's no secret that the liberals are waging a war on America, and in particular, Trump supporters. In fact, the reason why Biden wanted to withdraw troops before U.S. citizens from Afghanistan, that immediately led to the Taliban taking over, was simply because the Democrats rejected Trump's original negotiation plan. Due to the Democrats' relentless war on Donald Trump and everything he represents, Afghanistan has now fallen. And this is arguably the biggest embarrassment to the American military ever since the Vietnam War. Make no mistake, the Democrats and Joe Biden are against everything Donald Trump stood for, because only he put America first. As such, we can no longer stand back and watch the values that founded this great nation being trampled on any further. As a proud American in this God-fearing nation, we must stand up and fight for our president and support his stance against the Democrats. And that's why, for a limited time only, Trump supporters will be able to receive a buy one, get one free limited edition gold Unity coin. These have been flying off the shelves, so act fast. There's no telling how many are left. You can pick them up by hitting that link in the description box below. Own a piece of history for yourself before it's too late.
And we're joined now by the Vice Chair of the committee, Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Congresswoman Cheney, thank you for joining us again this morning. Happy New Year to you. You know, you were alarmed by this from the very start, from the first moments on January 6th when this started to unfold. You've cut a lonely path in your party. Have you been surprised by anything you found over the last year?
Well, I've certainly been surprised by many things. I think that in the piece that you played by John Carl just a few moments ago, he touched on the fact that we know now, we are learning much more about what former President Trump was doing while the violent assault was underway. The committee has firsthand testimony now that he was sitting in the dining room next to the Oval Office watching the attack on television as the assault on the Capitol occurred. We know, as you know well, that the briefing room at the White House is just a mere few steps from the Oval Office. The president could have at any moment walked those very few steps into the briefing room, gone on live television, and told his supporters who were assaulting the Capitol to stop. He could have told them to stand down. He could have told them to go home. And he failed to do so. It's hard to imagine a more significant, a more serious dereliction of duty than that.
Is his failure to make that statement criminal negligence?
You know, I think that there are a number of, as the chairman said, potential criminal statutes at issue here. But I think that there's absolutely no question that it was a dereliction of duty. And I think one of the things the committee needs to look at as we're looking at a legislative purpose is whether we need enhanced penalties for that kind of dereliction of duty. But I think it's also important for the American people to understand how dangerous Donald Trump was. We know as he was sitting there in the dining room next to the Oval Office, members of his staff were pleading with him to go on television, to tell people to stop. We know Leader McCarthy was pleading with him to do that. We know members of his family. We know his daughter. We have firsthand testimony that his daughter Ivanka went in at least twice to ask him to please stop this violence. Any man who would not do so, any man who would provoke a violent assault on the Capitol to stop the counting of electoral votes, any man who would watch television as police officers were being beaten, as his supporters were invading the Capitol of the United States, is clearly unfit for future office, clearly can never be anywhere near the Oval Office ever again.
Okay, so January 6th fanatics will take this just as they took every random Robert Mueller bombshell. They'll package it with their predetermined narrative and proclaim the walls are closing in. The rest of us more, rational people will sit back and ask exactly what the hell is Cheney thinking that she's proving here? So let's game this out, so to speak. First, is it really surprising that Trump was monitoring what was going on? Second, even if Ivanka Trump asked him to intervene, it's quite obvious that he did not have the ability to do so. For example, I don't know, let's imagine that I walked into the basement and asked Joe Biden to stop all the murders in Chicago. Yet if he has no power to do so, me asking him that does not prove he's responsible for all the murders in Chicago, right? Now I'm sure Ivanka Trump, seeing what was unfolding, wanted her father to do something, but reality dictates that there was essentially nothing he could do except wait for the authorities to get things under control. That reality is also not really under dispute. We know that Trump asked the crowd at his speech, a fraction of which splintered off to the Capitol to peacefully protest. We also know that Trump, within minutes of the breach, sent out a tweet asking people to respect the Capitol Police. Now, in neither case did any of the January 6th participants listen to him, but we are supposed to believe that he has some sort of a magic switch that would have stopped the unrest had he just used it. That some further Twitter message would have ceased all hostility. That's really what Cheney's argument here is. Further, her accusations are just wildly inconsistent. Here's another clip.
We know Democrats are planning a vigil. We know the former president is planning a news conference. Are you concerned about the country being at risk of political violence this week and in the years ahead?
Look, I think that if what he has been saying since he left office is any indication, former President Trump is likely again this week to make the same false claims about the election that he knows to be false, and the same false claims about the election that he knows caused violence on January 6th. I think that it is indeed very concerning, given what we know happened in the lead up to the 6th and what the committee is finding out about the events of that day. But I think that it's not surprising. But again, he knows these claims caused violence. And we've seen now people who were in the Capitol, people who've been arrested because of their activities on that day. They themselves have told us in court filings, they've told us on social media, we've seen it on videos, that they were here because Donald Trump told them to be here. And so he's doing this press conference on the 6th. Again, if he makes those same claims, he's doing it with complete understanding and knowledge of what those claims have caused in the past.
You've raised in the past the possibility of criminal culpability for the president. Is that the consensus view of the committee?
Look, the committee is obviously going to follow the facts wherever they lead. We've made tremendous progress. We have had now, if you just think about, for example, what we know now about what the former president was doing on the 6th while the attack was underway. The committee has firsthand testimony that President Trump was sitting in the dining room next to the Oval Office watching on television as the Capitol was assaulted, as the violence occurred. We know that that is clearly a supreme dereliction of duty One of the things that the committee is looking at from the perspective of our legislative purpose is whether we need enhanced penalties for that kind of dereliction of duty. But we've certainly never seen anything like that as a nation before.
Okay, so which one is it? Was January 6th a pre-planned attack under the direct control of Donald Trump to the point where he actually could have waved his hand and stopped it? Or was it a spontaneous action driven by Trump's public proclamations about voter fraud, which would dictate that he otherwise had no direct ability to stop it? Because it can't be both. Well, unless you're a Democrat, right, Liz? Either Trump was in direct control, which means the attack would have happened regardless of his public rhetoric, or his public rhetoric was the cause and people were acting on their own volition after being indirectly incited. Now, just a suggestion here, but perhaps Cheney should try making up her mind because the entire thing feels like she and her cohorts are just throwing things against the wall and just hoping something sticks. Which should remind you of the last couple of Democrat-led impeachment hearings. The more the January 6th committee trudges forward, the more obvious it becomes that they have nothing of value and that this whole thing is a political play. So where in the hell is all this damn proof of coordinated insurrection we were promised? Instead, the narrative has been reduced to an improbable insinuation that Trump didn't order people he had no control over to do something fast enough. What the hell? To say the least, it's weak and a colossal waste of time when the country is facing a slew of real, impactful issues. But hey, whatever. Keep it up, because it's going to backfire, not just on Cheney, but on the Democrat Party as well. Most of this came by way of redstate.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.